The first time Tahoma Redhawk saw her, she was stepping out of a veil of smoke like a spirit returning from the other side, wild-haired, dust-covered, and trembling as if the whole desert had chased her here. And in that single breath, before she even spoke, he knew two things. She carried a story carved from danger, and someone out there wanted her gone. The late evening sun hung low over the painted mesa, sharp and coppery, throwing long shadows across the sandstone ridges. The air smelled of juniper and gunpowder, the kind of scent that told Tahoma someone had fired shots not long ago. His Mustang, Ashfall, stamped anxiously beneath him, ears flicking toward the thin trail of smoke curling skyward. It wasn't campfire smoke. It was the kind that rose after trouble. Tahoma nudged the horse forward. He didn't expect to find a woman standing alone in that haze, nor one with eyes like storm-hit amber, fierce yet wounded. She looked about 20 summers old, her clothes torn at the edges, her braids half undone as if she'd run for miles without stopping. A cut on her arm had dried and a rusty streak down her skin. She stared at him with equal parts fear and relief. "Please," she whispered hoarsely, "don't turn me away." Tahoma swung off his Mustang slowly, palms open, voice steady. "You're safe. Tell me what happened." The woman blinked hard, fighting tears she seemed too proud to let fall. "My name is Nayeli Skyfeather. I don't know how far they followed. I kept running. I didn't look back. Who followed you?" She hesitated, swallowed, and her gaze flicked toward the smoke behind her. "Men who wanted something I wouldn't give." Tahoma didn't ask what. In the Old West, a woman alone and clearly Apache rarely owed explanations for danger. He could hear it in her breath, see it in the way she held herself. She had survived something fierce. He offered his waterskin. Nayeli drank, shaking with each swallow, then pressed her fist to her chest as if steadying her heart. "Come," Tahoma said softly. "My camp isn't far. You'll rest first. Then you'll talk if you want." But before she could answer, her knees buckled. Tahoma caught her before she fell, surprised by how light she felt, as though exhaustion had hollowed her from the inside out. She wasn't a child. Her face held the shape of a grown woman, carved by sun and sorrow, but she had fled with the desperation of someone cornered. Carrying her to his horse. He felt a strange protectiveness settle over him, uninvited, immediate, and heavy as a vow. By the time they reached his camp beneath the red cliffs, night had painted the sky dark violet. Coyotes howled somewhere along the ridge, and a wind carrying the bite of oncoming cold whispered through the pines. Tahoma laid Nayeli near the fire and wrapped a woven blanket around her shoulders. She flinched at the crackle of burning wood. "You're safe," he reminded her. "No one will come here." Her breathing steadied. She looked into the flames, voice barely above the wind. "I didn't know where else to go. I kept thinking, if I could reach Apache land, someone might help. And you found me." She nodded, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "Why would you help a stranger?" Tahoma shrugged, though the truth ran deeper than words. "Because the desert shouldn't swallow those who don't deserve it." Nayeli's lips trembled into something small and grateful. But then she whispered something that chilled him more than the night. "Air, my mother," she said. "I must find her. She is the only one who can tell the truth. She thinks I'm dead, and the men who hunted me want to make sure she never knows otherwise. A mother, alive, searching or mourning. Tahoma leaned forward. "What's her name?" Her answer came like a breath wrapped in reverence and fear. "Sehaya Dawnriver. A widow, a healer. People say she carries beauty that unsettles men, truth that scares them, and power some would kill to silence." Tahoma felt something shift in the air, a quiet omen. He knew that name. Not personally, but through whispers carried by travelers. Stories of a woman both revered and avoided, a widow of striking presence, and this frightened young woman, her daughter. Before Tahoma could speak, Nayeli gripped his wrist. "Please," she begged, eyes burning. "Take me to her. She doesn't know I'm alive." Tahoma felt the weight of destiny settle around the camp like dust. "I will," he promised, but far off in the night, a gunshot cracked, a cruel reminder that the past Nayeli fled was still hunting, and it was getting closer. The gunshot echoed through the cliffs like a warning carved straight into the bones of the night. Tahoma Redhawk didn't flinch, but Nayeli Skyfeather did, her breath catching, her fingers bunching in the edge of the blanket. The fire between them snapped sharply, scattering embers that glowed like tiny spirits fleeing into the dark. "They found me," she whispered, voice trembling. "I knew they would." "Not yet," Tahoma said. "Not here." He rose from the ground with the silent steadiness of someone who had lived half his life in the wild. His hand dropped to the knife sheathed at his hip, not out of fear, but readiness. Ashfall, his Mustang, pawed the dirt, ears twitching toward the ridge where the sound had come from. Tahoma scanned the shadows. "It's one rifle. A warning, not a strike." Nayeli swallowed hard, drawing the blanket closer. She looked smaller like that, wrapped in woven threads and fear, but her eyes, bright and ember-like, had the stubborn strength of a woman who'd run through hell and refused to break. "I don't want to bring danger to your camp," she said softly. "If they find me here—" "They won't," Tahoma cut in, his voice calm but edged with quiet iron. "Sit, drink. You're safe." Her breath shuddered at the word safe, as if she hadn't felt it in years. Tahoma crouched beside her again once he was sure there were no immediate threats creeping through the dark. The firelight flickered across her face, revealing new shadows under her eyes. She was exhausted, truly exhausted. After a long, hesitant moment, Nayeli spoke. "There is something you must know. Before you take me to my mother." Tahoma didn't interrupt. She stared into the flames. "My mother, Sehaya Dawnriver. She is not like other women. People say she carries healing in her hands, but danger in her presence. Men who have wronged her feel it before she speaks. And because of that, she has earned enemies." Tahoma had heard whispers of Sehaya before, none spoken lightly. Nayeli continued, her voice tightening. "She lives alone on the far side of Willow Gorge. She avoids people, keeps her distance even from her own people. That is why they thought they could take me. They thought no one would question it. They knew my mother had no one to stand for her." "Why were they after you?" Tahoma asked. Nayeli hesitated, as if weighing trust itself. "Then, because of something she discovered," she whispered. "Something men in this territory would kill to bury." Before Tahoma could ask what, another sound cracked through the night, this one closer. Not a gunshot. A twig snapping beneath a careless boot. Tahoma placed a finger to his lips. Nayeli froze. He moved toward Ashfall, whispering something low in the horse's ear. The Mustang lifted its head, nostrils flaring. Then it swung its gaze north. "3 men," Tahoma murmured. "One with a heavy gait." Nayeli's face drained of color. "That's them." Tahoma's voice deepened, calm as a river but cold as midnight. "Pack only what you need, but we ride now." He kicked dirt over the fire, smothering the flames until the night swallowed them whole. Nayeli scrambled to her feet, still unsteady, but determination had begun to replace fear. Tahoma helped her mount Ashfall, lifting her gently but firmly. The Mustang whinnied, impatient but loyal. "You ride with him," Tahoma said. "He knows the paths better than any man alive. And you?" She whispered. "I'll run beside you. You can't outrun them." Tahoma allowed a rare, grim smile. "I don't need to outrun them. I only need to outsmart them." Then he clicked his tongue, and Ashfall surged forward into the night. The cold wind whipped Nayeli's hair, stinging her eyes. Behind them, faint lantern glow flickered through the tree shapes of men moving quickly. Tahoma ran alongside the Mustang, feet silent on the earth, muscles flexing with each stride. His long hair streamed behind him like shadows pulled by the moon. Nayeli watched him, awe cutting through her terror. No Apache she had ever known moved like that, swift, controlled, almost animal in instinct. "You left your weapon," she cried. "My weapon is the land," he said without looking back. They rode hard until the cliffs narrowed, guiding them toward the river path. The moon shone bright, silvering the water and the stones. But Nayeli's breath hitched when she looked behind them. "They're gaining. I know. Tahoma, hold on." He grabbed the rope at Ashfall's reins, gave a sharp whistle, and the Mustang leapt down a narrow deer trail, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. They disappeared under a low arch of stone just as the pursuers reached the ridge above. Shouts echoed. Faces turned. Lantern lights swarmed like angry fireflies. But they had lost the trail. Breathing hard, Nayeli pressed a hand to her heart. Tahoma finally stopped, resting a hand on Ashfall's neck. "We'll reach Sehaya by dawn," he said. "But we must be ready." "For what?" she whispered. Tahoma looked toward the distant valley, its darkness deep and waiting. "For whatever truth your mother carries, and whoever fears it." Dawn crept over the horizon in muted shades of rose and amber, brushing the jagged mesa edges with light that felt too gentle for the danger stalking behind them. Ashfall snorted as he slowed near the riverbed, his sides heaving, his breath forming mist in the cold morning air. Nayeli clung to his mane, eyes heavy with exhaustion, though fear kept her from fully drifting into sleep. Tahoma placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're close." Nayeli's gaze followed his gesture toward a narrow cleft between two towering stone walls. The entrance was almost invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. The canyon beyond lay in shadow, silent as an unspoken secret. "That canyon," she murmured. "I remember it from when I was small." Tahoma nodded. "Sehaya chose this place for a reason. It can protect or trap." The words hung between them like a warning. Ashfall stepped carefully into the gorge, hooves clicking softly on smooth stone. The air grew cooler, carrying a faint scent of wild sage and river moss. Nayeli inhaled sharply. "That smell. My mother always kept sage bundles near the windows of our lodge." Tahoma felt tension coil in his spine. If the scent remained strong, it meant someone tended it recently. Sehaya Dawnriver was alive and close. Yet with every step, Tahoma felt another presence watching. Not an enemy. Something older, quieter. This canyon belonged to Sehaya. Even the wind obeyed her. After half an hour weaving through twisting rock corridors, they reached a hollow where sunlight streamed through a break in the cliffs. And there, tucked against the stone, stood a small earthen lodge surrounded by dried herbs, pottery, and a circle of carefully arranged river stones. Nayeli's breath hitched. My mother's home. But something was wrong. No smoke rose from the fire pit. No footprints marked the soft dirt except a faint trace of a woman's moccasins, and they led outward toward the river. Tahoma motioned for Nayeli to stay mounted as he circled the lodge. Ashfall swished his tail anxiously, sensing the tension. Then a voice, soft yet commanding, cut through the quiet. "Do not step closer, Redhawk." Nayeli gasped. "Mother?" From the shadow of a juniper tree stepped Sehaya Dawnriver. Tahoma stilled. She was striking more than the whispers had hinted. Tall, with raven-black hair braided over one shoulder, her skin sun-kissed and luminous even in the canyon's half-light. A leather healer's satchel hung at her hip, and turquoise beads adorned her wrists. Yet her eyes, deep, intelligent, unyielding, held a kind of sorrow few could bear to see. She stared at Tahoma first, measuring him with quiet intensity. Then her gaze fell on Nayeli. The widow's breath cracked. "Nayeli?" Nayeli slid from ashfall, legs trembling. "Mother." For one heartbeat, neither moved. Then Sehaya stepped forward, cupping her daughter's face in both hands, tears shining in her eyes but refusing to fall. "I buried your memory," she whispered. "I mourned you every night. How are you here? Who stole you from me?" Nayeli pressed her forehead to her mother's. "I escaped. And Tahoma saved me." Sehaya's eyes flicked to him again, this time softer, yet still guarded. Why would a Redhawk risk himself for a stranger? Tahoma didn't answer immediately. He felt as if all the canyon's eyes rested on him, the cliffs, the river, and Sehaya herself. "Finally," he said simply, "because she needed someone." Sehaya studied him a moment longer, searching for cracks, unspoken motives, anything hidden. Whatever she found or didn't made her sigh. "Come inside," she said. "Both of you. We cannot speak here." The lodge was warm and dim, filled with the scent of healing herbs, sage, sweetgrass, desert lavender. Dried flowers hung from the ceiling, and polished stones ringed the hearth. Nayeli ran her fingers over familiar objects, tears wetting her cheeks. "I thought I would never see this again," she whispered. Sehaya placed a gentle hand on her daughter's back, but her expression remained strained, haunted. Sitting across from them, Tahoma sensed a storm gathering behind the widow's silence. At last, Sehaya spoke. "Nayeli, did you tell him why those men hunted you?" Nayeli looked at Tahoma, unsure. But Sehaya answered for her. "It is because of me," she said. "Because of something I saw. Something the men who rule this territory do not want spoken aloud. Something they will kill to keep beneath the earth." Tahoma felt the air thicken. "What did you see?" he asked. Sehaya's jaw tightened. A murder that should have stayed buried. And a secret that, if revealed, could destroy men with power. Nayeli's fingers trembled. "And now," Sehaya whispered, voice lowering, "they will come for all of us." Outside, a pebble rolled down the canyon wall, too deliberate, too heavy. They were no longer alone. The pebble's echo faded into the canyon stillness, but its warning clung to the air like smoke. Tahoma moved first, rising with the controlled grace of a hunter whose instincts never slept. His eyes flicked toward the canyon mouth where light met shadow. Sehaya Dawnriver did not panic. She simply touched Nayeli's back and whispered, "Inside. Both of you." Nayeli hesitated. "Mother, now." Something in Sehaya's tone, something cold and carved from fear, sent chills down Tahoma's spine. He guided Nayeli deeper into the lodge as Sehaya closed the hide-draped doorway. The dim interior glowed with the orange warmth of a single lantern, but the widow's voice held the weight of a confession. "If they are here," she said, "it means they learned I survived, and that you returned." Nayeli clasped her mother's hand. "You said you saw something. Tell us." "We can't run blind." Sehaya exhaled, the sound trembling like a woman dragging truth from a grave. She sat across from Tahoma and her daughter, the lantern highlighting the sharp lines of her face, beauty touched by grief, strength tinged with dread. "It began 2 moons ago," Sehaya said. "I traveled toward Cold River to gather herbs. Near the abandoned silver mine, I heard shouting." Nayeli flinched. "The mine near the ridge?" "That place collapsed years ago." "Yes, but men still go there. Men with secrets." She paused as if weighing which part of the truth hurt most to speak aloud. "I hid behind the rocks. That's when I saw Sheriff Harlan Pike and his deputies dragging a man someone they had beaten nearly to death. He was an Apache scout from the neighboring band." Tahoma stiffened. "A scout?" Sehaya nodded. They accused him of spying on their shipments. The scout said he only wanted proof of what they were doing. And what were they doing? Tahoma asked. Sehaya swallowed, voice tightening. Smuggling rifles. Using the abandoned mine to trade with outlaws and bounty hunters. The sheriff wanted the tribe blamed wanted violence to justify taking more land. Silence thickened like clay around them. Nayeli's hands balled into fists. Mother, you saw them kill him? Sehaya closed her eyes. Yes, Harlan Pike shot the scout. The deputies buried him beneath the collapsed stones and swore no one would ever learn. Tahoma leaned forward. But you saw. And that means they hunted me, Sehaya whispered. They ransacked my lodge. I hid in Willow Gorge for days. When I returned to find you, her voice cracked. They had taken you, Nayeli. They left only blood on the ground and tracks leading toward their hideout. Nayeli's throat trembled. I escaped. But they think I know what you saw. They want both of us silent. And now, Sehaya said, turning toward the doorway, they know you found me. Before Tahoma could answer, Ashfall let out a sharp, warning snort from outside. Nayeli's eyes widened. Someone's here. Tahoma's hand dropped to his knife. Stay back. He pushed aside the hide curtain and stepped into the early sunlight. The canyon glowed gold, but danger pulsed in the shadows. Ashfall pawed the ground, nostrils flaring. Then a low whistle echoed from the canyon wall. Everything froze. Another whistle closer. Nayeli appeared at the doorway. Tahoma, what does that mean? Signal, he said. 2 men. Maybe 3. They're circling. Sehaya stepped out beside them, her expression transformed, no longer fearful, but resolute. We cannot fight them here. This canyon is a funnel. They will pin us. Then we move, Tahoma replied. Where? Nayeli asked. To someone who can help, Sehaya said. Someone who still remembers the truth about this land. Tahoma frowned. Who? A man named Gray Talon, chief of the Eagle Crest Band. He was close to the scout they murdered. If anyone will stand with us, it is him. Tahoma nodded slowly. He is honorable. But reaching Eagle Crest would mean crossing open plains, exposing themselves to the sheriff's men. A distant voice shouted from the canyon mouth. There, tracks. They went this way. Nayeli flinched. Sehaya grabbed both their wrists. We leave now. And we do not look back. Tahoma mounted Ashfall in one fluid motion, pulling Nayeli behind him. Sehaya climbed onto a smaller mare tethered nearby the widow's own horse, half hidden beneath a juniper branch. We ride for the ridge, Tahoma said. Stay close. They kicked off just as 3 armed men sprinted into the canyon, rifles raised. Gunfire cracked. Stone shards exploded from the walls. Ashfall leapt forward, muscles coiling beneath them. Nayeli wrapped her arms around Tahoma's waist, burying her face against his shoulder. Sehaya's mare thundered behind. The canyon narrowed. Another shot screamed past Tahoma's ear. Sehaya shouted, faster. Ashfall surged, hooves beating the earth like war drums. Tahoma glanced back just once at the men chasing them, at the rifle raised for another shot, at the shadow of violence gaining ground. But what he didn't see, what none of them saw, was the 4th man waiting ahead near the ridge, hidden behind a boulder, rifle aimed directly at them. The trap had already been set. The wind tore through the canyon like a wild animal, whipping dust and loose stones into the horse's eyes. Tahoma Redhawk pressed Ashfall forward, muscles straining as the Mustang leapt over jagged rocks and a narrow ravine. Nayeli clung tightly to his waist, heart hammering against her chest. Sehaya Dawnriver rode close behind, her dark eyes scanning the ridge where the 4th man had waited, rifle in hand. Tahoma's jaw tightened. The man had aimed true, but Ashfall had instinctively veered at the last second, carrying them past the trap. Yet the echo of the shot lingered, a cruel reminder of how close death always seemed in the Old West. "Keep left." Tahoma shouted over the wind. "There's a path through the junipers that will give us cover." Sehaya nudged her Mari in that direction. "He won't follow through there. Too narrow. Too risky." Nayeli's voice trembled. "We can't outrun all of them." Tahoma's gaze swept the canyon walls. "Not outrun. Outsmart. Stick close." They plunged into the thicket of junipers and scrub oak. The branches lashed at their faces and shoulders, but Ashfall moved like water through the obstacles, hooves finding the hidden footholds. Behind them, the shouts of the pursuers grew fainter, but Tahoma knew better silence often meant they were regrouping. After a dozen tense minutes, the path opened onto a plateau overlooking the valley. Sunlight spilled over the golden grass, painting the canyon edges in fire and shadow. Tahoma stopped Ashfall just below a rocky overhang and scanned the land. "They'll see us if we stay in the open," he muttered. "We need higher ground." Sehaya dismounted gracefully, adjusting her satchel. "There's a cave just above. It's small, but it will keep us hidden while we plan." Nayeli slid off Ashfall, knees weak but spirit unbroken. She brushed the dust from her clothes and looked at her mother. "Do we tell him what's buried in that mine?" she asked in a hushed voice. Sehaya's eyes hardened. "Not yet. First we survive. Then we decide how to bring the truth into the light." Tahoma stepped closer, muscles taut beneath bronzed skin, eyes sharp. "You saw what they are willing to do. I need to know everything if we are to protect you both." Sehaya studied him for a heartbeat longer, then nodded. "Very well. But this is not a tale for the faint of heart." Nayeli's hands tightened on her mother's. "I'm ready." Sehaya led them up a narrow climb, the overhang sheltering a small cave barely wide enough for the three of them. From there, they could see the valley, the river glinting like silver in the sunlight. Ashfall pawed below, aware that danger still stalked them. Inside, the shadows embraced them like old friends. Sehaya knelt on a flat rock and began drawing in the dust with a stick, mapping the mine, the trail of the sheriff's men, and the location of the buried scout. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "The mine collapsed here," she said, tracing a line. "The sheriff and his deputies buried him beneath rubble only they could reach. They believed the secret would die with him. But I saw it all." Tahoma's eyes narrowed. "And they want to silence anyone who knows." Sehaya nodded. "Yes, if we move carefully, we can retrieve evidence of the crime. But it is perilous. One misstep, and it will mean death." Nayeli swallowed hard. "We have to try. For him. For truth." Tahoma placed a hand on her shoulder. "We do this together. I'll go first, then you two. Ashfall and I know the terrain." A distant whistle cut through the wind. Tahoma's head snapped toward the ridge. Shadows of movement flickered against the golden grass below. "They've found us," he said grimly. Sehaya stood, the fire of determination in her eyes. "Let them come. They do not know the land as we do." Tahoma ran a hand along Ashfall's mane. "We lure them here. The plateau gives us advantage. Rocks, cover, the narrow path. If they follow, they will be trapped." Nayeli's lips trembled, but her gaze hardened. "We can't fail." Tahoma nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle across his broad shoulders. "We won't. We survive this, then we uncover the truth buried in the mine." Sehaya drew a deep breath. "And I will teach you both the skills you need to survive this land. The truth alone is not enough. You must be ready for what comes next." The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the plateau. Below, the men of Sheriff Harlan Pike began to emerge from the juniper and rocks, rifles raised, moving cautiously. Tahoma whispered to Ashfall, guiding the Mustang to a position near the cliff edge. "Patience. Timing. We strike when they make the first mistake." Nayeli's hand found Tahoma's, holding on as if drawing courage from his presence. Sehaya's eyes scanned the approaching danger, calculating each step, each movement. And in that tense, electric silence, the canyon seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see who would claim the ridge, who would survive, and who would uncover the secret buried beneath stone, blood, and lies. The first man stepped onto the plateau and the trap began. The men moved like shadows below, rifles gleaming in the sunlight, boots crunching against the dry grass. Tahoma Redhawk crouched behind the largest boulder on the plateau, muscles coiled, heart steady. Ashfall shifted beneath him, ears pricked, nostrils flaring as if sensing every breath of the enemy. Nayeli's hand gripped his arm, trembling but determined, while Sehaya Dawnriver knelt beside them, eyes sharp, calculating the trap they had set. Tahoma whispered, "Stay low. Wait for my signal. They will make the first mistake." Sehaya nodded, her raven hair catching the light as she adjusted her stance. "They underestimate us. They believe we are trapped. They think fear controls us. They'll learn otherwise," Tahoma murmured. His eyes scanned the valley. The lead man, a tall figure with a wide-brimmed hat, gestured for the others to fan out across the grass. Nayeli swallowed hard. "Father." "Not yet," Tahoma said. "Patience. Timing is everything." Sehaya placed a hand lightly on Nayeli's shoulder. "Remember what I taught you. The land is our ally." Tahoma gave Ashfall a subtle command, and the Mustang shifted slightly, muscles tensed, ready to spring at the right moment. The wind carried the scent of sage and dust, whispering of danger, warning them that the men below were closing in. The tall man signaled again. The others fanned out more, unaware of the hidden cliff above. They walked directly into the trap. Tahoma felt the familiar thrill of anticipation, tempered with the responsibility of protecting the women behind him. "Now," he whispered. Ashfall sprang forward, hooves pounding the plateau, sending rocks tumbling down toward the unsuspecting men. The sudden movement startled them, forcing rifles to swing upward hastily. Tahoma leapt from the boulder, knife in hand, his bronze chest gleaming with sweat, long black hair streaming behind him. His presence was fierce, commanding the embodiment of both power and precision. Sehaya moved silently beside Nayeli, guiding her toward a safer rock outcrop while keeping a watchful eye on the assailants. Her calm, commanding presence radiated authority. Her eyes never left the approaching threat. The lead man raised his rifle, aiming directly at Tahoma. Tahoma's reflexes were instantaneous. With a sudden, fluid motion, he deflected the rifle with the flat of his knife, forcing the man to stumble back. Ashfall reared, kicking up dust, forcing the other two men to retreat instinctively. "Keep them at bay," Tahoma shouted, slashing and maneuvering with precision. His movements were a dance of survival, fast, calculated, and deadly. Nayeli found courage in her mother's calm. "Mother, what now?" she whispered. Sehaya's eyes gleamed. "We strike when they falter. They do not know the land as we do." The men below tried to regroup, but the plateau gave Tahoma and his allies a perfect vantage. From this height, every step the enemy took was predictable. Rocks, dust, and the sudden charge of Ashfall kept them disoriented. One of the men fired a shot, grazing Tahoma's arm. He gritted his teeth but kept moving, flipping over a boulder and launching himself toward the nearest man. With a swift, precise motion, he disarmed the attacker, sending the rifle clattering down the slope. Sehaya took advantage of the distraction. Moving forward with deliberate speed, her hands gripping a small, weighted rope she had prepared. With a precise flick, she snagged the second man's ankle, sending him sprawling to the ground. Nayeli's eyes widened. "Mother, you did that?" Sehaya's lips curved in a faint smile. "It's all in the technique." The third man, realizing they were trapped, turned to flee, but Ashfall blocked the path, ears pinned, hooves stamping like thunder. Tahoma met him halfway, forcing him to stop and surrender. Within moments, the ambush ended. All three men lay disarmed and cautious, realizing that the plateau was no place for them. The wind carried their retreating curses down the canyon. Tahoma exhaled, finally allowing himself a small sense of relief. He wiped sweat from his brow and turned to Nayeli and Sehaya. "Are you both unharmed?" Nayeli nodded, face flushed with adrenaline. "Thanks to you." Sehaya's expression softened slightly, though the fire in her eyes remained. "We are not safe yet. They will return. But this shows we are not powerless." Tahoma ran a hand through his long black hair, gazing down the valley where the men had fled. "We need to move. The longer we stay, the more danger gathers. We go to Eagle Crest. Grey Talon will protect us and help us uncover the truth about the mine." Nayeli's hands trembled slightly as she reached for Tahoma's. "I trust you," she said, voice steadying. "Lead us." Sehaya placed her hands on both of their shoulders. "Then we ride, together, and we do not falter." With Ashfall ready beneath him, Tahoma led the way, moving along the plateau edge toward a hidden path that would take them to Eagle Crest. The morning sun glinted off their horses' backs, and the canyon seemed to exhale behind them as if acknowledging their victory, but also warning of trials yet to come. The three of them rode in tense silence, hearts still pounding, minds sharp, and resolve unbroken. Ahead lay the next stage of their journey. Allies to find, secrets to reveal, and the enemy still hunting them. Relentless and ruthless. The old West had tested them, and it would continue, but Tahoma, Nayeli, and Sehaya were ready for whatever lay beyond the next ridge. The hidden path wound sharply down the plateau, jagged rocks and loose dirt forcing Ashfall to pick his steps carefully. Tahoma Redhawk led, muscles taut, long black hair whipping in the wind, eyes constantly scanning the valley below. Nayeli Skyfeather rode close behind, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. While Sehaya Dawnriver brought up the rear, her posture regal, calm, but alert, the kind of presence that commanded attention even in the most perilous moments. The canyon walls opened to a flatter expanse of golden grass, dotted with sagebrush and the remnants of old trade paths. Tahoma paused at the edge, surveying the distant ridge. The sheriff's men had not pursued them far. They were likely regrouping, waiting for reinforcements. "They'll be back," Tahoma said softly, voice low. "We have little time." Sehaya nodded. "Then we go straight to the mine. Grey Talon is expecting us, but the evidence must be recovered first." Nayeli's hands tightened on the reins. "Mother, it's dangerous. What if they fortified it?" Sehaya's eyes softened briefly, brushing a strand of dust-streaked hair from Nayeli's cheek. "We cannot wait for safety. We can only act with courage." The trio moved cautiously toward the abandoned silver mine, its mouth yawning dark and foreboding in the shadow of the ridge. The air grew colder, carrying a faint metallic tang and the musty scent of earth that had been disturbed. Ashfall's hooves echoed softly, careful not to alert anyone lying in wait. Tahoma paused at the entrance, brushing dust from his knife. "Stay close. Watch every shadow." Inside, the mine was a labyrinth of collapsed tunnels and broken timber. Rays of sunlight filtered through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating swirling dust motes. Sehaya led the way, her keen eyes scanning the walls and floor for hidden signs. "There," she whispered, stopping beside a partially collapsed shaft. Carved marks in the stone revealed the location where the scout had been buried beneath rubble. They tried to hide it well, but the earth remembers. Tahoma knelt, examining the stones and rubble. We need to be methodical. One wrong move, and this could cave in. Nayeli glanced at her mother. I don't know if I can do this. Sehaya's hands rested on Nayeli's shoulders. You are stronger than fear. We do this together. Working as a team, they carefully removed rocks and splintered timbers. Tahoma's strength and precision proved invaluable. Ashfall's calm presence kept them grounded. Hours passed, sweat and dust coating their skin, until finally a hand-carved wooden box emerged, partially crushed but intact. Tahoma pried it open. Inside lay a bundle of papers, maps, and the scout's journal proof of the sheriff's crimes, along with details of the smuggling operation. Sehaya's eyes glimmered as she lifted a parchment. This is the truth. This can save the tribe. Nayeli breathed a shaky sigh. We did it. We found it. Outside, a shout echoed through the canyon. The sheriff's men had discovered their trail, approaching fast. Tahoma slung the box over his shoulder. Time to move. Ashfall, take us down the back trail. The descent was treacherous. Loose rocks and narrow paths tested their balance, but Tahoma guided them with practiced skill. Ashfall leapt over fallen boulders, carrying Nayeli and Tahoma safely. Sehaya's mare followed closely, nimble and sure-footed. They reached the valley floor just as the first rifle shots rang out. Tahoma spurred Ashfall, dodging the bullets while returning fire with precise aim, driving the men back. Sehaya and Nayeli remained low, hearts racing, but trust in Tahoma's lead never wavered. Finally, they reached a hidden glade where Gray Talon and a small group of loyal Apache warriors waited. Relief washed over them. The scouts took in the box and its contents, eyes widening. Gray Talon stepped forward. This will change everything. Sehaya handed him the documents. The sheriff and his deputies cannot hide their crimes now. Justice will follow. Tahoma finally allowed himself to breathe, standing with his long black hair falling across his bronzed chest, muscles tense but relaxed in the aftermath. Nayeli's hand found his, squeezing tightly. Thank you, she whispered. Sehaya approached, her gaze steady and proud. Tahoma, you risked yourself to bring my daughter back to me. The land remembers deeds like yours. You are trusted. Tahoma inclined his head. I did what needed to be done. We survive, and the truth survives with us. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the valley. For the first time in weeks, the canyon felt silent, safe. The danger had not vanished entirely, but the balance had shifted. Nayeli and Sehaya stood together, mother and daughter reunited, their bond tempered by fear, courage, and survival. Tahoma looked at them, knowing that his role as protector and guide had not ended. But this chapter, this perilous journey had reached its conclusion. And as the wind rustled through the valley, carrying the scent of sage, dust, and freedom, the three of them mounted their horses. Ashfall led the way, strong and unwavering. They rode toward Eagle Crest, toward allies, and toward a future shaped by courage, truth, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the fires of the Old West. The canyon behind them grew silent, leaving only the echo of hoofbeats and the promise of justice restored.